Good morning. So we're gonna do a little kind of a slower flow, maybe a little more gentle on the gentle side, but a flow class nonetheless. But we're gonna start in an elevated position on our backs. So if you have yoga blocks, you could use 2 yoga blocks for this. If you don't have yoga blocks but you've got some throw pillows, this can also work. You might just wind up doing your throw pillow on the corner like this, and you might want a little blanket or something to elevate your head. So I'm going to show you how you could do that with this throw pillow. If you've got yoga blocks, you can put 1 block under your shoulder blades, 1 block under your head, and that'll give you a nice little platform. So when you do the blocks, just a heads up for those of you that might want to do this, the bottom edge of the block should go just below your shoulder blades. So the block is holding your upper back, and some people like it so it's more narrow, kind of almost between the shoulder blades, and some people like it a little more broad. Usually for me, my favorite way is more on the broad side, so both my shoulder blades rest on the block, but you'll have to experiment on your own. And I usually like my head slightly higher in terms of the way it's supported. So I'm going to take a regular throw pillow, and I'm going to put it on the diagonal so that the corner of the pillow goes down my spine and my shoulders rest across the broad scope of the pillow. And then I'm going to use a little blanket under my head once I get in here. So you start by laying back, and you want to, again, we're going to kind of position it so that the pillow, the thickest part of the pillow, is right under the upper back. So I might need to get myself a little bit further back. Hang on, I'm going to give myself an extra inch or so. And then now I just check to see, like, do I want my head supported a little higher? This actually feels pretty pleasant, so I might go with this, but if you wanted your head supported a little higher, then you can take a blanket and put the blanket under your head so that you've got a little bit more support there. Actually, that feels good too. So it's all pretty great. So then you have some choices. Okay, so now my upper back is supported, so it's a little higher, and I'm going to snuggle the arms in. And if I bring the arms in closer to me, and I'm not hugging them up against me, I'm just essentially just where would they naturally want to drop. This position, done over time, will reset kind of deeper in the shoulder socket. And so my arm bone is going to drop back a little bit into the shoulder. My collarbone is going to release the shoulder muscles that are maybe being pulled forward when I spend too much time sitting around a desk. Like, those things will start to kind of gently release deeper in the shoulder, so you may not even notice it's happening. If you put your arm out to the side, more like that, that pulls more across the chest muscle, the big pectoralis muscles. And so the pectoralis major, which is the big one that kind of makes up the bulk of the chest, that will feel a little bit more spicy, because muscles that are closer to the surface have more sensation than the deeper stabilizing muscles that are in the body. Okay, so we tend to notice the surface muscles more. So if you want more of that sensation at the surface, you'll take your arms out wider. If you want a little bit more of the sort of gentle release in the socket, bring your arms a little closer in. Now you can rest your feet on the floor like a little bridge pose. You can put your feet together and drop the knees open like little butterfly wings. Or you can have your legs just out straight. So that's up to you. I'm going to go for straight legs this morning. And then this little bit of an elevation where my shoulders are able to sort of drop off the edge of the pillow here. That part is allowing my arms and my shoulders to sort of gently reset where they where my posture, right, my postural alignment would like them to be, rather than the misalignment that I tend to do, leaning over devices and computers and things like that. And so once you've positioned your body so that your back is comfortable, you like what's happening in your low back, it feels like the weight is nice in your legs, then you're going to breathe. Just breathe. Taking a little deeper than I would normally breathe kind of breaths, and trying to get a little bit of expansion around the ribs. places where there might be some tension here in the sides. I'm feeling a little bit of a shift. I'm just gonna snuggle my shoulder blades under a little bit more. So sometimes as we sort of feel things start to move, we can make little minor adjustments. If things are uncomfortable, make a little minor adjustment. We're gonna stay with this for about another minute, just a tad bit over a minute. All right, yogis, so we're going to take a really big breath. Let go with a nice big Now, all we're going to do is take what's underneath our upper back out, if there is anything, because maybe you opted not to do any of that. So if you've got blocks or you've got pillows, you're going to pull those things out. And then once you're back on your back, just notice how that impacted you, right? So even as something as soft as a little throw pillow has made it feel like my upper back is kind of spread out a little bit wider. I feel just a little bit more like my arm bone, instead of rolling forward the way it normally does, it feels a little bit more like it's rolling toward the back of my shoulder. It's very subtle, but that's really what we're looking at when we look at stabilizer muscles anyway, is that they're very subtle muscles. The deep stabilizers in the shoulders, the deep stabilizers in the hips, it's very subtle. So we're going to do this little like windshield wiper thing, and I've got my feet really like bridge distance apart, hips distance apart, and just starting there. And then I'm going to wiggle them a little wider and go a little bit more into the center with that. And don't do anything that makes your knee feel uncomfortable. Knee joints themselves need to sort of be honored. Okay, so I'm wiggling out just a little bit wider. So I'm going to go really wide, about as wide as I can even comfortably move my legs. Just right to the edge of that. Good. All right, so now we're going to take this into a twist. So I'm going to go to the right first, so I'm going to just swing the legs over to the right. And if you wanted to, you could take your throw pillow or your block or whatever you've got, and you can put that underneath the legs, right? So if it doesn't comfortably go to the ground, I'm going to hook this leg over the top. I'm going to reach out through my arm. And now I'm going to go for a stretch all the way through this diagonal from this hip to this shoulder. I'm going to let my legs roll over the top of this, so the pillow helps me because it allows me to kind of go over this edge, right? So I'm not running into the floor yet. And then I can reach through my arm and center my shoulder into the ground. So I'm really feeling this very intense stretch along the side. Now you can be much more passive here. You don't have to be this active with the stretch, but I sort of like it. I'm even reaching out through this leg here, you guys. So I'm gonna give it a good stretch. Oh, it feels good. 2 more breaths. All right, now with my exhale, I'm going to come all the way back, left leg first. I'm going to let this pillow hang out on the side here, but I'm going to grab hold of this left leg. Now, you can hold it like this with both hands wrapped around the leg, the thigh, or you can hold it like this, where you've got a hold of the leg with one hand. Now, I'm taking this right leg and stretching it out, and I'm going to stretch out through my right arm as well. Now for me, this is enough, right? I can feel my hip flexor is quite tight and really wants to keep my leg like that. So as soon as I stretch it out, with this hip especially pinned here in this position, I feel a stretch on the front of my hip. If you don't get that stretch, then you can elevate your hips with your pillow or your block, and then come back and stretch this leg out, and you'll have a little bit of a place to drop down, like when we did the other side, right? So you've got like a little bit of an elevation so you can drop into the stretch. So reaching through the leg, reaching through the arm. This guy is just hanging out with this little low lunge, upside down lunge position. We got one more breath. All right, so we're gonna release this left leg. First, before I do go anywhere else, I'm gonna go ahead and give my ankle joint a little love by spinning that foot around a few times, and then going the other way. And then point and flex. Just give my ankle joint a little love while I got hold of it. So shaking everything out. And noticing any differences between my left side and my right side. Feels so good. So my left side feels a little bit longer, feels a little bit more like, a little friendlier, a little softer. All right, so I've got my feet hips distance apart. And again, I'm just kind of starting with these windshield wipers. I do 2 or 3, then widen it out a little bit. Do 2 or 3, 4. Widen it out a little bit. So now I'm kind of at the edges of my wide, how wide I can go. And so I'm going to do one more little set of these, and then I'm going to take this right leg all the way over and into the twist. And I know I'm going to want this pillow, so I'm going to bring it over. This just lets me drop my top leg over the top, right? So it's the same principle I was talking about with the reclining lunge idea. So now I've rolled my upper back to the floor. I'm going to stretch through this right arm, and I'm, not necessarily, like you can use your hand on your leg, but I like to just try to do it from the core. So from my core, I'm trying to roll my hip that direction and roll my shoulder that direction. So I'm pulling myself in 2 directions from the muscles in my center, as opposed to using my arms as a lever. You can use your arm as a lever. I just prefer to do it from the center if I can. And then maybe if it's feeling okay, add that little bit of extra with the arm. Things I do with the muscles from my core are less likely to damage my joints than when I use my arms or my legs as levers, right? Just one of the things I've learned. Screwing this up. So I'm sharing it with you. We're going to take a couple more deep breaths here. Okay, take a big inhale. And then we're going to bring this thing back. And again, you can grab hold of your leg like that. That can be enough. Or you can reach in here and get hold of the foot. So you've got more like a lunge shape. And again, we're going to stretch out. Now for me, my left side is a little less tight than my right side, but I still feel a little bit of stretch on the front of my hips. So I don't need to go any farther, but if I wanted to, I could elevate up on the block or on a pillow. So I'm going to reach this left arm up and stretch into that as well. And I'm actively reaching out through this left leg. You probably can't tell on the video, but I am. 2 more big breaths. So then we're going to let this whole thing get softer. I'm going to grab this leg behind here, and I'm going to spin this foot. And go the other direction. And then point and flex. All right. So we're going to give it a little rinse. And I'm coming back to my little tight windshield wipers. One more time. And then a little bit wider. And then a little bit wider. And the last thing I'm going to do is give myself one big stretch and just see, does it feel like things are a little closer to even. And it does. It feels pretty great. So I'm going to roll myself up to an all fours position. And you could rock yourself up to an all fours position if rocking things sounds like a better idea to you. Oh. Give things a little bit of a shake. And then once here, you can start to move your back through some fluid movements. So there's this kind of, one little cat-cow shape that we might be used to. Now with the rounded back shape, I like to get this part of my back as broad as possible. So you can even sink back a little bit to get into that. And with this shape, I try to get my upper back to move as much as possible. So I get my shoulder blades. Sometimes I'll even let the shoulder blades just really wing off the back a little, because it feels nice to get some movement going in those muscles. You don't have to be abusive to yourself. It shouldn't feel terrible, but definitely, when you notice there are places that are sticky or feeling a little tight or tense, you can add a little bit of movement. Like I'll shake my hips a little side to side, or move my shoulders and my arm bones a little bit side to side, just to kind of get a little bit more movement going. Okay. Now do one more breath like this. And then we're going to take ourselves to what feels like kind of a neutral position. We're going to take the right leg out behind and the left leg out, or left arm rather out in front. Left leg out in front would be really exciting. That would be the splits. We range between the two. And then we're going to bring the right knee in and bring it all the way forward, and we'll turn this into a lunge. And the lunge is going to go a little bit forward and back. So I'm going to take my hips forward, and then I'm going to take my hips back. Okay, so I'm going to do this a few times. Going forward, going back, and finding that stretch. Going forward, going back. All right, so then I'm going to come back to all fours, take this right leg all the way back, give it a stretch. And this time I'm going to hook it up over my back like a scorpion tail. And if you wanted to, you could reach back and grab that foot. If that seems like a problem, just hold it steady right here and lift it up. See if you can get your thigh to go up a little higher. Good, and then you're going to release your foot, stretch it out, bring the leg down. Okay? So we're going to feel the difference between those 2 points. And then we're going to pause and take the left foot up and the right arm out and give it a good stretch. And one more big breath. And then we're going to bring that leg forward. And again, we're going to kind of ease forward and back into this. So I'm going to move forward, and move back. You can keep your hands on the floor. You can use a block, moving forward, and moving back. Moving forward. And I'm just kind of feeling out where the edge of the stretch is, moving back, feeling out the edge of the stretch on that side. We're going to move forward one more time. Back one more time. And then we're going to come back to that sort of more neutral position. Take that left leg up, and you can give it a little shake, and it's coming up over the back. And again, you can reach for that foot, or you can just hold it steady, lift it up. And we're going to see if we can get just a little bit more lift in the thigh, and then let it go, stretch it out, and bring it back down. Good. All right, yogis, we're going to take ourselves into a downward facing dog. Now, if downward dog is not your jam for whatever reason, this is a great place to land. Before I get to my downward dog, I'm going to go ahead and put my hair in a clip. But you can go right in if you don't have to worry about that. Otherwise, join me in containing all of your hair. So we'll find our way into a downward facing dog. My mat's feeling a little bit slippery today, so I'm gonna flip it and give myself a little bit more of a surface. And
And so just finding your dog shape that seems to be working for you. And I like to move my shoulder blades around a little bit here, try to find the spot that feels the most secure. Give your hips a little jiggle. And then we're going to walk the hands and feet together. Now, when you get to the top of your mat, or wherever you stop, just pause for a second, shake out your arms, do one arm and then the other, and then both arms together. And then we're going to come up about halfway so that the back feels like it's flat. You can bend your knees if you like as you fold forward. Try to get as far into that forward bend as it makes sense to go. Coming up to the flatter back. Straighten the legs, bend the knees as you fold over. We're going to do that one more time. Coming up to a flatter back. And then let yourself fold over. Now, heel toe your feet out about as wide as your mat, maybe a little wider. Turn your toes out. You can grab hold of your elbows if you like. We're going to essentially make like a little figure 8 with the hips. And as you do that, just let your upper body go along for the ride. Oh, switch the direction. And switch which elbow's on top too. All right, we're going to come back to the center. And then we're going to come all the way to standing. Oh, I'm going to try to go as round as I can with my back. Let's see if I can get it. Oh, I feel like I get a little bit of vertebral movement in the spine. When you get to the very tippy top, give everything a little bit of a shake. Now, in my world, if I sweep my arms up, I tend to nail plants and other things. So I am going to keep my arms a little tighter. It's like a little tight package right at the center. If you've got room, you can go out like wide wings, right? So you're just going to find your way. So find your feet so that it feels like they fall right up from underneath your hips at the top of your mat. Spread out your toes. And we're going to feel the pelvis come to what feels like neutral, right? So if it feels like it's dipping forward or dipping backward, just find a neutral position. Try not to lock your knees out while you're doing that. And then relax the shoulders. Now I do not like this really powerful turnout of the arms, because when you do that, it tends to poof the chest out, right? And overemphasize the muscles in the back. And I have enough tension in my traps to last me for the rest of my flippin' life. So I don't need that kind of power. It's better for me to allow the arms to relax, to really try to get these really tight, tense trap muscles to just let go a little. So for me, the mountain pose is done softer through the arm. But if for you, it's better with that more powerful turnout, knock yourself out. Just know why you're doing it, not because someone said this is the right way to do mountain pose, right? It's the way you do mountain pose for a reason, because you need a little bit more activation in your upper back to feel balanced. And we're going to take 2 more breaths with our mountain pose. Sometimes this pose is vulnerable, I think. Actually, I think it's always vulnerable, but you know, it's an interesting pose. Okay, so we're going to extend up. So again, I'm going to go straight up the center. You might go out and then up. We're going to fold forward. We're going to come up halfway and lengthen out. And just feel that kind of linger on the lengthen. As you fold, you're going to eventually put your hands on the floor and step back into your down dog. And again, if down dog's not your jam, but you can hold a forward bend, you can do that. Or you can come to an all fours position. Now we're going to take a nice big breath here in this down dog. Lift through the hips, sink through the heels. And then pressing back through your heels, come into your plank. Now it can be a full plank. Lift nice and firm through the thighs, lift really good into the shoulders, or you can modify your plank by putting your knees down. But that doesn't mean you sag, okay? So everything is still lifting and still nice and supported. I'm going to pause for one more breath with this plank. You guys are breathing, right? Okay. And then as you exhale, we're going to lower down with control, okay? So whichever version of the plank you can do with control, that's your plank. Inhale, we're going to come into cobra. Exhale, come down. Slide your hands back an inch. Inhale, come to cobra. Oh, it feels good. Come on back down. Slide your hands back an inch. So we're not pushing with the hands, we're lifting with the back and the legs to come into this shape. Beautiful. So we're going to bring the hands back to neutral, push back up to your plank, either a modified or a full, and then come back to your down dog. Or your all fours position, should that be better. So hold and steady, take your right leg up, and just for a moment we're going to reach through that right leg, sink through the left heel, and then you're going to step your right foot forward. Now, I go out to the diagonal, and then I wiggle it in, because that allows me to get my foot forward. Some people can step right through their hand, but if that's not you, try the diagonal and then move in. Now we're going to swing this heel around, and when I do that, it feels like my pelvis kind of aims itself towards the side, okay? So this is the leg position for Warrior Two, but we're not coming into Warrior Two just yet, okay? We're going to stay low. But I'm on a diagonal with both hands out here in front. Right knee is bent, left leg is straight, and then I'm going to bow into this space and then try to straighten out my right leg a little bit. And then I'm going to bend it. And then I'm going to straighten it out a little bit. I'm up on the tips of my fingers. I don't know if you can see that, but that gives me a little bit more height because I got short arms. You might be able to be on your palms. Straighten your right leg out a little bit. Come back to the bent knee. Now we're going to pick ourselves up into a side angle pose. So I put my elbow on my thigh here. I'm going to use that for balance as I start to connect to my core and extend. And I might have to change the legs a little once I get up here. And then I'm going to let myself sweep the arm over the ear. Sweep it all the way back, open up, look back at that thumb if you can. Sweep it over your ear. Oh, that feels good. Take it back, look at that thumb. You might even come off your elbow a little. And then sweep it out again over your ear. Take one more big breath there. Beautiful. Then we're going to take this whole thing back to downward dog. So we'll step it back. Oh. And again, just take a moment, connect to your shoulders. Pull your hips back. Again, you might be in all fours instead, but notice the difference in the right side and the left sides of your body. Oh. And we'll come into that plank and we're going to press back through the heels. Hold the plank steady. You might hold that modified plank. Lift into your shoulders. One more breath. And then modify it or keep it up and lower down with control. Good. Cobra number one. Hands a little on the higher side. Come on back down. Slide your hands back an inch or so. Cobra number two. Lift. Broaden out the shoulders. Come on back down. Whew. Cobra number three. Draw the elbows back. Keep your neck loose. Come on back down. We're pushing it back up to our down dog. Again, we're not in a hurry. We get there, we get there. Connect to your upper back. Take your left leg up. Hold it steady. Oh. Reach through that leg. And then we're going to bring it forward. And again, you can take it to the diagonal and bring it around or step it right through the middle. Okay, then you're bringing that right foot around. We're not going anywhere yet, but I've got this feeling that my pelvis is turning to the side a bit. And then just taking myself on the diagonal and letting myself fold in. I'm going to start to try to straighten out my left leg and then bend it back into that Warrior Two arrangement and straighten it out. Oh. Bend it into that Warrior Two arrangement. What I love about this is it really gets this inner section of my hamstrings a little bit more than the outer section that I'm used to stretching in most of the hamstring poses. All right, one more. Oh. Bend your knee, and then we're going to slowly take this up into a side angle. And again, I might have to make some little adjustments once I get here. Connect to your core, get yourself that nice long stretch on this side. And then we'll bring the arm up over the ear. Bring it back. Oh, so it almost takes you out. Stretch. Oh, bring it back. Good. Stretch. Oh, that feels so good. Bring it back one more time. And then we're gonna stretch into this side angle, push your heel down, stretch and lift through that back leg. And then we're gonna take it back to downward dog. And again, we're not going anywhere right away. You can go to all fours, connect to your upper back, and pause. And feel. Does it feel a little more even? How did it go? And then we're gonna come forward into a plank. Again, you can do the full plank, or you can modify your plank. We're gonna do some little chaturanga dips. So we're gonna dip down and push back up. Don't go so low that your elbow goes past the line of your ribs, okay? Dip down, push back up. Oh, these are tough. Dip down, push back up. Try to keep those shoulders on your back. We're going all the way down now. Whee! All right, yogis. From here, we're gonna take ourselves into a sphinx, but first, 3 cobras. So we're gonna lift, feel where your back takes you, okay? No other muscles, just your back. Slide your hands back. Lift. Now, push the legs into the ground, reach back. See if you can get a little bit more height just with your back muscles. Hi. Hang on. There's an opportunity to snuggle and kiss. Okay. Let's come back. Lift one more time. Sorry, I had to take the opportunity. And then we're going to come back. And then bring your elbows in front of you and see if you can recreate the curve that you had in your back with that really powerful lift, okay? Now you can put your palms together, you can put your hands flat on the floor. I've got my elbow a little bit forward of my shoulder and slightly less wide than my shoulders. And that seems to be the best position. And then I'm reaching back through my legs and planting them in the floor. Now, when I do this pose in the yin world, I let everything get soft. But in this world, because we're doing more of a yang style class, I'm reaching through the legs, powerfully energizing the muscle to roll my outer thigh down so my leg feels nice and balanced and broad through my sacrum, and I'm lifting through my shoulders so I'm not sinking into my elbow here, but I've positioned myself so that it's not too much pressure on my neck, okay? So I'm feeling all these kind of balanced places, all this action in the muscle for 2 more breaths. All right, now I'm gonna extend my right arm out and I'm gonna rest my head on it and roll to my side. Now, what's important here is that I maintain stability, all right? So I'm gonna try to maintain stability as I bring this knee in and see. I might just have to hold my leg right here at the back. It's possible that I can get hold of this big toe and lift, but if I fall back and I can't maintain my stability, then that's problematic, okay? So you can use a strap or you can use your ankle or your calf muscle like that, all right? So it gets nice and stable, feel yourself, like there's gonna be a little bit of a change in your hip because we've done a really pretty powerful movement of the leg here, but we're gonna try to stay as stable as possible. So I'm still engaging through my core. I've got this bottom leg lifting off the ground. Hold and steady wherever you are. Oh. See if you can maintain the stability and the balance in this sleeping Buddha. Oh. Good, last big breath here. And then we're gonna bring this whole thing together. Oh. Stretch that guy out. Roll through to the opposite side. So again, I'm gonna try to maintain the balance. So first things first, find your steady balance. And I've lifted my legs off the floor a little bit. So my bottom leg is hovering. I'm gonna try to maintain that as I either grab here or, see if I can grab a little bit closer to the toe. And then I'm gonna try to hold the steady balance, hovering that leg, doing the best I can. Connect into the core a little bit, reach through that bottom leg, reach up through your top leg, hold it wherever you're holding it. Ooh, 2 more breaths of this balance, or maybe not, as it starts to fall apart. All right, so we're gonna let go. I'm gonna take that leg Oh, back out, roll back onto your belly, and then we're gonna take ourselves back to down dog. But before I get there, I'm gonna do a little movement. Oh, right here in child's pose. Just to, change the shape in my body and feel what that little sleeping Buddha did for me. I'm kind of into that pose right now. So we're coming back into our dog. And again, we're gonna take a moment here. Just find the shoulders nice and steady. Put the left foot in the center, take your right leg up. And we're gonna hook this leg up if we can over like a little scorpion tail. And then you're gonna see if you can make 3 big circles in the air with your knee. Now hug the knee in nice and tight. Take it back up like a scorpion tail, hug it in nice and tight. Take it back up like a scorpion tail, hug it in nice and tight. Stretch it back, and again we're gonna step through. And again, you might be able to go straight through your hands, or maybe like me, you gotta do a little finagling so you can get your leg in place, right? Just makes the flow a little smoother. All right, so find a way to be steady in your feet. And again, we're going off to this diagonal that we did before. And again, we're gonna see about this kind of leg movement here, bending the knee, straightening out the leg. I've just walked myself a little bit further out here with this pose, so I've got almost a down dog shape. And then straightening out this leg and bending that knee. And straightening out that leg. Oh, and bending that knee. And then I'm going to come back to the center so I can get my weight right over the middle. And I'm going to come all the way up and turn this into Warrior Two. So find your shoulders balanced on your torso so that you're not doing funny things with your arms. Make sure this knee is tracking straight forward. If you try to square your hips, often it'll pull your knee in. So don't worry about the hips. Track this leg straight. Feel where your hips have to land to make that happen. Adjust your back leg and there's your pose, okay? I made that sound easy. It's not always that easy. So come to reverse warrior. We're gonna straighten out the front leg and bend it. Oh, stretch back, straighten it out, and bend it. Straighten it out. And then we're gonna take this into triangle pose. Now you can do this more traditional way of getting into triangle, or you can try your own way. And then elongate the spine. And I need to change my feet just a little bit. So I'm gonna bring my back leg up onto my mat again so that I'm a little more structured. And then lengthen. And then feel your pose for 2 more breaths. You might be looking up, you might be looking out, you might be looking down. All right, now we're gonna take this to a half moon. So we're gonna reach the hand out, and maybe in 1 lift it'll go, or maybe it'll take 2 or 3. You can use a block if that's helpful, but lift and try to get light on your hand so that the power's coming from your hip. Woo! If you're gonna fall on your plants, save the plants. So lift from the hip, feel yourself lift from your core, lift from your hip. Nice, good power here. And things can be wobbly on carpeted surfaces. So as needed, save your plants. And then we're gonna step back into down dog. And this is my favorite thing. Feel how the body feels after that. That pose makes me feel so good. Now you can stay here with me in this downward dog, or you can throw in a vinyasa. Going forward into plank, lower and down, coming into a back bend, and then coming back to down dog and joining everybody here together now. Now we're going to move the right leg to the center. We're going to take the left leg up, hook it like a scorpion tail, and if you can do it, 3 big circles. And then we're going to bring that knee in and bring it out like a scorpion tail, in and out like a scorpion tail, and in and out. And then we're going to stretch it and step it forward and wiggle yourself into your Warrior Two-ish kind of shape. And again, we're going off at the diagonal here, and I'm gonna go a little bit further through my arms than last time. So it almost feels like down dog. And then straighten out this leg and bend in the knee. Straighten out the leg. Ooh, and bend in the knee. Ooh. 2 more. And 1 more time. All right. So then I'm going to walk myself in. Make sure I've got the weight in my legs nice and powerful. I'm going to use my core to pick myself up. And then make adjustments as needed to make sure I don't accidentally do the splits. And then take warrior 2. I've got my palms up on this side. And then we're going to take a reverse warrior. And again, just find the stretch and then straighten out your leg. And then come back in with a bent knee, stretching back. Oh, hold on. I'm about to do the splits. Stretch out. Good. Now, we're going to take this into triangle. Oh. Again, you might need to adjust things so it's not dangerous. And then we're going to find that length in the spine. Find your triangle pose the way you want to do it. Oh. My right shoulder's always a little stickier, so sometimes just giving it permission to move around a little is nice. All right, you guys, we're going to take 1 more big breath. And then we're going to turn this into our half moon balance. And again, it might be 1 hop, it might be 2 hops, it might be 3 hops that gets you all the way up. And once you're up, we're going to lift through the hip, lift through the core. Light on the hand, so light, you don't even need it really, but it's there for balance. Lift. Last breath. All right. And then we're going all the way back to downward facing dog. Oh. All right, yogis, again, you can throw in a vinyasa here, or just follow me with a little moving dog. Now, we're going to come into a pigeon variation. So it could be the regular pigeon. Your right leg is going to come up. You're going to hook it in and bring it forward. And the angle here, I'm stuck in my pants, but the angle here is up to you. Now some people's knees are going to be happier with the leg really close to the inside. And then other people, like myself, as soon as I slide back, my knee broadens a little bit more parallel. It's not a wrong way or a right way, okay? It's just a way. Now this pose can be quite spicy. So if it's too spicy, there are some options. You can go back to laying on your back and bring this leg in, which is what I'm going to show you in a second. Or you can do a seated version of this. Bring this left leg forward and then stack your right leg on top of it. And depending on where your hips wind up, you might stack the 2 right on top of each other, or you might use a pillow or a block and have one leg slightly in front. But when the legs come in close together and you fold, this gives you a stretch in the same area as the pigeon. A little bit more mild, at least for me. For some people, that's more intense. Let me show you the laying down version. We almost did it earlier, right? So I can elevate my hips again with a pillow or a block. You lay on your back. And this is the more, I don't know if traditional is the right word, but this is the more common way to do it, just to have this leg close in. But you can, kind of returning to what we did earlier, stretch that leg out, and you just want to be careful about how you torque the lower leg. Make sure you're moving everything from the thigh bone and not from the shin. So you can lock your shin a little bit by flexing the foot firmly, and then letting the leg come toward you. So as you stretch out through the left leg, and you hang out with the right leg,
We're still getting all the same territory in the stretch, just not quite so spicy. Some people like their poses spicy. Some people not so spicy. So you find the right amount for you, right? Because your body will tell you when it's too spicy, usually later. You know what I mean. Breathe. Sometimes it seems good. You like that spice, and then later you pay for it. Don't make your knees pay the price. So I'm just hugging the leg in a little bit, and I'm giving myself more action from my thigh, and just hanging onto my shin for the structure. Oh, I'm not pulling with that arm. And then we're going to take 2 more breaths in the pigeony shape. Now, those people that stuck with the first version, you're going to lean into your right hip and your left leg is going to come all the way around. Those people that went for the seated version, you're just going to unpeel your legs for a second, and if you followed me into the reclining version, we're going to come up. This right leg is going to wind up being on the bottom, and we're going to put the left leg up on top. I'm going to turn sideways so you can see. Now, if I bring my leg all the way over here, this butt cheek doesn't touch the floor. I can get at least 1 ferret, probably 2 under there. Maybe a guinea pig. So I want my hips on the ground, right? So however you organize your legs, today I'm going to go really easygoing and just sit cross-legged with this leg up top, but you can have your knee up. Just make sure that you're level and not tilted, okay? And then sit up nice and tall. We're going to spin towards that left leg. Now, I'm going to move the shoulder through a little range of motion because I can feel how this twist is helping me release my upper back, okay? When I focus the twist in my spine, I get release in these tight muscles that live in my upper back. I'm going to show you how I do it generally. So I'm going to hold on to this leg right here, okay? You can hold on wherever you've got. Then I'm going to lift up a little taller. I'm going to rotate this arm back a little bit. So I'm turning this arm in the socket and then putting my hand down. And then I'm going to make like a figure 8 kind of pull with my shoulder. This shoulder blade's going to go down and in. This shoulder blade's going to go forward and up, okay? And I'm moving the shoulder blades. And that, for me, creates this really interesting, so this shoulder's going up and forward, this shoulder's going down and back, and I'm not twisting my spine more, but I'm moving the shoulder blades in relationship to my spine and my upper back. It feels good, yogis, that's all I'm going to say. It feels better when you let it go. It feels pretty good now. So I'm going to take 1 more big breath. And then I'm going to slowly release this by turning my head, releasing the shoulders, releasing the twist. And then rinse that out. I don't know about you guys, but I want to do the other side. So some of you are going to go back to down dog. You might even throw in a quick vinyasa. I don't know. We're getting near the end of class. I don't know how many of those you need. And then you're going to step your left foot forward into the pigeon, or you might put your left leg up on top here in the seated position, or you might come with me and take your left leg and bring it in. So the right leg is going to be stretched out, but first I'm going to get a hold of my left leg and kind of find a position that feels like I've got a good hold. So I generally prefer to hold right on the outside of my ankle and right on the inside of my thigh a little bit, so that the action of my, the weight of my arms balances each other out, and then I keep my foot flexed so my knee is happy, and then, I'm going to stretch that right leg out. So this leg coming in toward me and rotating, externally rotating a little bit, so I'm turning it that way. That gets this stretch that's happening right here in my buttock region. And then the right leg, it's all about my hip flexors and the front right there on the top of the thigh. And so, you guys, this is not too spicy, but it's just right. It's just right.
up to there, yogis, but hopefully a couple more deep breaths. Let's do another one. All right, so you're gonna take a big inhale, and then we're gonna exhale and come on out of there, and we're gonna all meet up in the seated position with the right leg on top. Okay. So again, it can be any way that makes sense to you. Just make sure that it's stable in your pelvis and in your spine. Okay, so then we're gonna twist around to our right, sit up a little taller. Oh, you might even lean back a little bit, especially if you've got your legs in a more elevated position. And then pause right there. And I'm just gonna move my right shoulder blade a couple times. Okay, so again, what's gonna happen is I'm gonna pull the right shoulder blade down and into my back, and I'm taking this left shoulder blade forward and up, so that just the shoulder blades are gonna create a release in my upper back. I'm not trying to turn myself more. Spine went where it went. It might turn more later, but I'm not trying to torque my back. I am trying to get my shoulder blades to move in relationship to my upper back. So differentiating those actions can be interesting, but I think it's worth it. Taking some nice deep breaths, yogis. Last one. Take an inhale. And then exhale and unwind that thing. Oh, we're gonna rinse out that upper back. Oh, that feels good. Now, yogis, we're gonna take a little forward bend. You have several shapes that you can work with. You can have the legs making a butterfly, feet in tight or out wide. You can go really wide if you want to get closer to the tortoise shape with a rounder back. You can have your legs straight out in front. Grab and hold of the toes, ankles, whatever you got. You can take the legs out wide. Again, you can hold on to things or not. So I'm liking this one today. So choose the pose that's right for you and kind of find your way into a forward bend. Now, I am feeling really good about this sort of activation, lifting my heart, kind of bending the knees slightly and really engaging my quads so that I can get a little bit closer to snuggling my chest and my thighs together. You might want to round your back. They're just different flavors. We're going to do 2 more breaths, but feel what the flavor you're doing does for you or not. So I'm going to take a big breath. Release your legs if you're holding on to them. Come all the way up. And yogis, it is time for Shavasana. I know, an hour went by already. Crazy town. All right, let's do this. So I'm just going to lie down on my back, but I am going to take a little blanket and put it underneath my thighs so that I have a little bit of a release for my low back. And I'm using the smallest blanket I've got, so it's very, very tiny. But you could use a bigger blanket or some pillows from your couch, whatever you have. I'm going to go on a diagonal here, so I've got a little bit of room to stretch out. And then, once you're on your back, like you might need to do a few moments of the little windshield wipers or a little back massage. It does feel really good. And then when you're ready to settle, you can explore like, how far out should this support be? Sometimes I like it really close to my thighs and sometimes a little bit farther away. But I want it just in the right spot so that there's a softness at the front of my hip. That's a spot where I'm tight, so it tends to arch my low back if I don't put the support there. And then again, like where should your arms go? Should they be sort of in their neutral anatomical position? Out like a wing, up like a cactus? What's feeling like the better option?
you can, let your whole body relax. Just a little bit longer here, but just check in again and notice the kind of overall quality of your awareness and of your body. Maybe your sort of heart-mind is a little more steady. Maybe the body feels a little lighter. Maybe the opposite is true. But just notice what is. And don't judge it, just notice it. There's no right or wrong. And then notice the next breath as it drops in and moves through you. We're going to take a really big breath. Let go with a really big sigh. Wiggle your fingers and toes. Stretch out your fingers and toes and then wiggle them again. And then stretch them out and wiggle them again. And then do some wrist and ankle movement. And then I'm gonna put my feet on the floor and I'm gonna do those little windshield wipers that I did right at the beginning. A little tight one with the feet close together. Couple of those, a little bit wider. Couple of those, a little bit wider. Couple of those right out to my edge. And then I'm going to let this turn into a sling on my side. And then when I've gathered myself up, I'm going to bring myself all the way up to a seated position. I'm going to let you in a little bit. So I always like to end my classes with a sigh. Occasionally I'll do an om, especially with a group that I know likes to om. But mostly I do a sigh. Now, there's some tantric texts. One's called the Spandakarka, And in the Spandakarika, it tells us that this moment where we pay attention is when we're in the pulse of life, right? It's like we join the river of consciousness. Every time we pay attention with that sigh, okay? So it's non-denominational. It doesn't have any real religious content to it per se, but it's a moment to just pay attention. So we're gonna do that again. I like to end that way, but now you see a little into my window of why I like it. Let's take a big breath together. And thank you for joining me in the river of consciousness for this class today. Namaste, beautiful souls. Have a good rest of your day.